Hi, this is Joe Rabil. I'm excited to be presenting on your Daily 5 for the first time. I have provided stock research and consulting to institutional money managers for the past 30 years. I consider myself a bottom-up technician, and I go through thousands of charts each week in multiple time frames trying to identify attractive patterns. So before we get into the 5, I'm going to just want to make mention that we have entered earnings season, and it's probably going to make for some wild price swings. So just be aware of the announcements coming on stocks you're considering. Let's go straight into the charts, and I am running a live version of ACP. This is a very powerful program. I actually just started using it, but I really like the ability to be able to look at multiple time frames on it now. Anyway, I'm using that, and what I've got right now is a monthly chart on the left and a weekly chart on the right. And what I'm looking for, I tend to look for stocks showing emerging relative strength patterns. I don't mind playing along in the trend if something has been strong and we're buying pullbacks, but mostly I'm trying to identify something that is early in the trend, is showing some new signs that something is emerging. So this first stock, PCRX, if we go to the monthly chart, and what I've done is I've got the MACD and the ADX on the scales below. And what I'm looking for when I go through and browse lots of stocks, I'm looking for this sideways line that develops where you're just looking at this long sideways period on a monthly chart, and then we start to see some signs of something emerging. And so when we do that, I'm also looking for where the ADX has been low for any stretch of time. ADX tends to show trend strength, and so obviously we want to see high trend strength in the stocks that we're buying, but there's another power to ADX, and that's when it's been low for a very long time. It's telling you there's stored energy in place, and it's the type of thing where if something has been underneath, or the ADX has been low for a long period of time, it's probably preparing for some kind of a meaningful move. And so if we look at this monthly chart, I mean, we really have been going sideways for quite some time, and now if we go and look at the weekly chart on the right, we're starting to see signs that the ADX is starting to kick in. We got a pretty strong move in the ADX reading based on the buyers, and we broke out of this area, and now we're pulling back to the 18-week moving average. And so, what I think, that this is the type of thing where we've got this long sideways pattern we're emerging from, and we're starting to pull back into a pretty strong area. So I'd probably be looking to draw in a downtrend line, something along these lines, and see if this can take out take out that downtrend line as a trigger for this pattern. Let's go to the next chart, KEYS, Keysight Technologies. So this is a little bit different. When we look at the monthly chart, you had this huge move to the upside, long, strong trend, and it's really spent the better part of the last year working off that overbought condition, just working sideways. It came down pretty hard to the 18-month line, but you can see both the 18-month and the 40-month are still rising nicely underneath. And then you rallied up and sort of tested the peak, and now we've come down and made a higher bottom, and it looks like it's trying to emerge out of this. And if you notice, the ADX was powerfully strong way up here, and it's kind of been working its way back down through this consolidation, and it's still hanging right around the 25 area. So that shows a lot of power still in the longer term trend. If we go and look at the weekly chart, notice how the MACD is starting to turn right around the 0 line as we're starting to emerge out of this little consolidation pattern, and the ADX is starting to move to the upside. I do want to take a quick look at the daily chart because I think we've got this pullback developing, which I actually think is very healthy. If this can catch up to the 18-day, or maybe it won't even do that, I think the most important thing I'm identifying is this big red bar here. And that was a very violent to the downside sort of down move, and we've come up and tested it a few times on this rally. I'd really like to see this exceeded to the upside, and I think that would sort of trigger what is developing on the longer time frame to maybe really kick things into gear. So that would be the level I'd be watching. Let's take a look at the next chart, which is ALXN. This is a little bit different. It's more of a turnaround play. It's more of an alert. And I wanted to point out, the fact is that we made this big low here on the monthly pretty violently when the market cascaded to the downside earlier this year. And if you notice, so we took out this pretty important sideways support level, and it only stayed down there for about a month, and then it got right back above it the following month. And also, if you look at the ADX, even though we went to a dramatic new low in ADX, the negative, or what I would consider to be the sellers, couldn't even get the negative DI above 25 during that period. So to me, that's sort of a sign that, there's sort of a reversal pattern likely developing. And then if we were to draw the downtrend line in place, you can see we've got a turn developing here, and then if we go to the weekly chart, we can draw a downtrend line here, and we've tested it, and we're starting to turn up to the upside. I'd like to see this get back above, say, 125 to we could have an inside week this week after the nice week from last week, that nice green bar. If we can work our way back up through this this week's high next week, I think that would be a good sign. Let's go to our next chart, which is CTVA. CTVA, Corteva, is a specialty chemical, and I want to switch this to a weekly and a daily. So now I've got a weekly on the left and a daily on the right. So I wanted to zero in a little bit because these are the two time frames that I think are fairly important. And we've obviously broken out of this base, but similar to what I was talking about with the PCRX, notice the low ADX formation on the weekly chart. So we've spent pretty much the better part of the last year or so where ADX has been low, and in fact all three of the DI lines have been low, and now we're starting to emerge and we're showing strength on the daily chart. And so when I see low ADX in two consecutive time frames like that, I like to see a breakout formation take place and then look to buy the first pullback. What I'd like to see take place here is some kind of a dip and test of the breakout level, and then use some kind of a higher low formation to kind of kick me into this pattern. So I view that as being pretty attractive. Let's go to the last chart in this sequence, and this is XLF. It's the financial sector spider. I did want to look at this because I think it's pretty critical what's taking place. The financials have rallied, and it's really a mix. I didn't want to pick out one specific stock because there is a mix. Some of the regional banks are acting a little bit better. Some of the big banks look like they're struggling here. But what's taken place in the sector is you had the big down move when the market declined, and then when it rallied up, it's failed or struggled right at the 18-month line, right around that 25, 26 area. And so we've reached a very critical point. The MACD is at the 0 line, and I think you're either going to fail at the 0 line or we're going to turn at the 0 line. So I think we've just reached a point. And then if you go and look at the weekly chart, we've reached a point where the MACD again is right at the 0 line. If you turn down from here and break the signal line to the downside, I would view that as being a pretty big negative. You could probably look to maybe draw a trend line here. I would say that would be very concerning if we saw that break. On the positive side, though, if we can work our way up through, say, 26 or so and get back above the 18-month line and through this little resistance zone up here in the high 25 to low 26 area, I would view that as being a pretty bullish sign for this. And I think that has connotations, or it's pretty reflective of in how I feel about the market. I think if we're going to continue to expand and show more stocks participating, it's probably going to need to have the financials starting to kick in. So that is your daily 5. I Just hope you enjoyed the segment. You can contact me through LinkedIn or find my research on rabilstockresearch.com. I also have started a YouTube channel for educational purposes to show people how to trade in multiple time frames. I wrote a book with the same name, and many of the videos expand on the concepts in the book. Have a great trading day, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with Stockcharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.